It's taken from chapter 19, verses 26 to 30. When Jesus saw his mother and the disciple whom he loved standing beside her, he said to his mother, "Woman, here is your son." Then he said to the disciple, "Here is your mother." And from that hour, the disciple took her into his own home. After this, Jesus knew that all was not finished yet, and he said, "I am thirsty." A jar full of sour wine was standing there. So they put a sponge full of the wine on a branch of hyssop and held it to his mouth. That when Jesus received the wine, he said, "It is finished." Then he bowed his head and gave up his spirit. It was estimated that during the Roman times, thousands were crucified. Thousands of disobedient runaway slaves, violent criminals, notorious rebels, they were crucified during the Roman times. And almost all of them are now forgotten. Such a loss of identity and memory is hardly surprising, because dying on the cross was one of the most cruel, disgusting, and dehumanizing forms of punishment. And this is according to a Roman himself, the famous Roman lawyer, politician, and orator, C.S.R. He said this: "The very mention of the cross should be far removed, not only from a Roman citizen's body, but from his mind, his eyes, his ears." Dying on the cross was reserved for slaves, violent criminals, rebels. Thousands died on the cross, including Jesus. But only he is identified and remembered by millions throughout the ages. Jesus dying on the cross is the central story of all the Gospels. The cross on which Jesus died has now become for us no longer something disgusting, revolting, or upsetting. The cross has become for us the sign of our Catholic and Christian faith, and we are proud of the cross of Jesus. What was once a thing to be feared and dread has become now for us the object of veneration, of adoration, of love. What was once a thing that brought shame and scandal has become for us now the sign of glory and power. What was once an instrument of death has now become for us the sign and the promise of life and life eternal. Jesus laid down his life on the cross out of love for us. Let us therefore, at all times, glory in the cross of Christ. Take the cross as a sign of God's love for us. Wherever we go, whatever we are doing, if we have the cross of Jesus before us, we know that we can overcome anything, the most evil, the most cruel, the most destructive things, because Jesus has conquered all that when he died on the cross out of love. May we never be afraid, never be ashamed of proclaiming Christ crucified. His dying on the cross has given us life. On the cross, as we heard from St. John's Gospel, Jesus finished his saving work. When everything was done, when he had given his mother to the disciple he loved, and when he had given him to her so that they form a good community, Jesus took care of everything. And then, when everything was done, when he quenched his thirst, he said, "It is finished. It is accomplished. It is over." He had come to do the will of God the Father, and now it's done. It's finished. Then he bowed his head and he gave up his spirit. He breathed his last breath by giving us his spirit. The spirit that helps us now to carry on living, to help us continue in our faith, in our struggles through life. Jesus gave us his very self, his life, and his last breath, his spirit, as he died on the cross. And therefore, today, let us remember that Jesus, dying on the cross, has given us eternal life.